Give that rhythm everything you got. Oh, it ain't a thing if it ain't got that swing. Do-wah, 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 do-wah.
Does it fall from skies above? Is it underneath the willow tree that I've been dreaming of? I can mean something too. Where is love?
When I see the face of someone new, I can feel something too.
Raise Rockhouse, that's my choice. House of soul, forget we don't care what's your dues. Come in, lose your boots when trouble comes a knocking.
Everything looks better while you're rocking.
You don't notice trouble while you're rocking.
Let's rock, that's what we're offering you. Let's rock, that's what we want you to do. Let's rock, rock all your troubles away. Let's rock, rock till the dawn of day. Let's rock, Rockhouse is ready to roll. Let's rock, Rockhouse is good for the soul.
Every Saturday night he sneaks out, leaving her in the lurch. But she's looking to bring mom home. Missing water with church. She really hates the Rockhouse.
She's sure the devil is in control here.
Nothing but rock and roll here.
Swing, hey, what are you waiting for? We got plenty of soul for you.
Everybody gotta loosen your head.
I feel rolls when you feel your back slip. Let's rock, that's what we're offering you. Let's rock, that's what we want you to do. Let's rock, rocking all your troubles away. Let's rock, rock till the dawn of the day. Let's rock, Rockhouse is ready to roll. Let's rock, Rockhouse is good for the soul. Let's rock, that's what we're offering you. Let's rock, that's what we want you to do. Oh, let's rock, rock all your troubles away. Let's rock, rock till the dawn of the day. Let's rock, Rockhouse is ready to roll. Let's rock, Rockhouse is good for the soul.
There's no doubt.
That's why Miss Tucker is pulling Sam out. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's rock, that's what we're offering you. Let's rock, that's what we want you to do. Let's rock, rock it always away. Let's rock, rock till the dawn of the day. Baby, 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 oh yeah. Wanna rock all night with you.
wash my sins away. Oh, happy day.
Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day when Jesus washed. Ooh, when he washed. When Jesus washed, he washed my sins away. Oh, happy day.
Celebrate and enjoy people's talents and learn from them. I would like to introduce to you first Mr. Chuck Chelberg, who's a history professor at Normandale, and he will then be introducing our guest poet. Thank you very much.
Hi everybody, you're in for a double treat today. This is a bit of a different sort of a treat. The microphone, there it is. I teach at Normandale. Yesterday we had two performances over there of Professor Hubert Martin. He teaches at Dayton. He is going to give you a portrait of a black poet, turn-of-the-century black poet by the name of Paul Laurence Dunbar. And he will go in and out of being himself. He is himself a published poet, and doing a bit of this unfortunately forgotten poet who in his short life produced a tremendous volume of work. I'm carrying some little cards along with me, and when I'm done here in about 4 seconds, I'm going to ask that you, we have 30 or so of them, and just think of a very creative word. And crosswise on this card, if you would just jot down a single word. And when you're done, if you could just kind of filter them over to that side of the aisle, and I will collect them. I'm not going to tell you what they're going to be used for. I'm just asking you to. And at the end of the show, you'll find out. So let me welcome Professor Martin and Paul Lawrence Dunbar.
While I work the mic this way, it's a pleasure to be here, and I thank you all for inviting me to come from all the way in Ohio to Minnesota. And this is the first time that I have ever been to your delightful state, though I have watched many times your governor. You are alert and amuses me, or that pleases me. I'm thinking that before I was going to do something of my own before I read the Dunbar, but I think I won't do that. I'll do the Dunbar, and then at the end I will come to my own stuff. And I'm oftentimes kind of pixie-ish, and something is telling me now to ask the cameraman if he can see me, but I won't do that because that would only be unkind to this young man who has to do his work. So I'll try and be serious about what it is I'm going to do. Paul Lawrence Dunbar was born in 1872, but by 1906, he had passed away. He lived to be 33 for the mathematicians in the audience. So if you consider that he graduates from high school in 1891, that he would be about your age. And he lived, I think, perhaps 15 more years after that. If he works, if you consider how hard he worked then, he writes 11 books of poetry in his own lifetime, and he wrote one book which was published posthumously after he died. So that's 12 books of poetry, 4 novels, 4 books of short stories, 2 musicals which played on Broadway at the turn of the century, and 1 opera with a man in England named Samuel Coleridge Taylor. Now, some of you who read British or may remember that there was another man living in London at the same time, and his name was Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and he was friends with Wordsworth, but he was a poet, and the other guy was a composer. Well, enough history. What I'm going to do is to give you some sense of some of the poems and prose that Dunbar wrote in terms of African American spirituals. One of the things you have to remember is that the African Americans came to this country, or rather they were imported to this country without all of their cultural attachments, their musical instruments, or anything else. They just sort of came. And so they had to reinvent themselves in the United States. And what they did, first of all, was learn the language through the ear. And that meant that the law said you couldn't teach blacks how to read and write. So for all of you here, it's really important that you figure out what it is you want to do for the next 4 years if you're seniors, and stay in school and do that, because the world will pay you standard dollar for standard English. And that's all the preaching I'm going to do for a while.
My God is so high,
You can't get over him, he's so low. You can't crawl under, he is so wide. You can't get around, you have to come in by and through the Lamb. One day as I was walking along the heavenly road, my Savior spoke unto me, and he filled my heart with love, because he was so high. You couldn't get over him, he's so low. You couldn't crawl under, he was so wide. You couldn't get around, you had to come in by and through the Lamb. The poet and his song. A song is but a little thing, and yet what joy it is to sing. In hours of toil it gives me zest, and when at eve I long for rest. When cows come home along the bars, and in the fold I hear the bell, as night the shepherd herds his stars, I sing my song, and all is well. There are no ears to hear my lays, no lips to lift a word of praise. But still with faith unfaltering I live, and laugh and love and sing. What matters yon unheeding throng? They not feel my spirit spell. Since life is sweet and love is long, I sing my song, and all is well. My days are never days of ease. I till my ground and prune my trees. When ripened gold is all the plain, I put my sickle to the grain. I labor hard and toil and sweat, while others dream within the dell. But even while my brow is wet, I sing my song, and all is well. Sometimes the sun, unkindly hot, it makes my garden a desert spot. Sometimes a blight upon the tree, it takes all my fruit away from me. And then with throes of bitter pains, rebellious passions rise and swell. But life is more than fruit or grain. And so I sing, and all is well. I'm gonna take my gospel trumpet, and then I'll begin to blow. If my Savior helps me, I will blow wherever I go, because he is so high. You can't get over him, he's so low. You can't crawl under, he is so wide. You can't get around, you have to come in by and through the Lamb. This is a poem of the persona and his grandmother, and it's in dialect, but I hope that many of you have the opportunity to enjoy your grandparents. This is called, by the way, Opportunity. Now, my granny is going to visiting, and I seen her, honey, get her shawl when I was hiding down there behind the garden wall. I seen her put her bonnet on, yes I did, and I seen her tie them strings, and I is going to dreaming about them cakes and things on the shelf behind the door. Mercy, what a feast. Soon as she gets out of sight, I can eat in peace. Cause I've been watching for a week, just here for this here chance, and when I gets in there, I is surely gonna dance. Oh, lemon pie and ginger cake. Let me sit and think. Vinegar and sugar too, now that's gonna make me a fine, fine drink. And if there is one I loves most particularly, it is eating sweet things and drinking sangaree. Oh, won't poor Granny rail when she see the shelf. When I thinks about her face, I is most ashamed of myself. Well, she is gone, and here is back behind the door. Look here, my granny done expected me. There ain't no sweets no more. Every sweet is hid away. Job is done up just brown. Person would have thought that somebody thought that there was thieves around. Now, that just breaks my heart in two. Oh, how bad I feel just to believe that my own grandma believed that I would up and steal. A little boy, yes, ma'am. Did you go to the fields? Yes, ma'am. Did you water my cows? Yes, ma'am. Did you feed my lamb? Yes, ma'am. A little boy, yes, ma'am. Did you go to the fields? Yes, ma'am. Did you water my cows? Yes, ma'am. Did you water my cows? Yes, ma'am. Little boy, yes, ma'am. Did you go to the fields? Yes, ma'am. Did you gather some corn? Yes, ma'am. Did you take it to the miller? Yes, ma'am. Did the miller make flour? Yes, ma'am. Did the miller make flour? Yes, ma'am. Did you take it to the cook? Oh, yes, ma'am. Did you take it to the cook? Oh, yes, ma'am. Did the cook make bread? Oh, yes, ma'am. Did the cook make bread? Oh, yes, ma'am. Did the bread taste good? Ooh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Thank you. If there's something funny, you can laugh. One of the things that I think I would like for you to sense is that the poems I'm reading to you do not have any kind of gender bounds or racial boundaries. You know, the really good poems leap over all that kind of foolishness and funny stuff. So this is a poem about diversity. And I hope that as you get older and older, you will understand more and more the importance of diversity. Our country, I think, democratically certainly represents that. And coming in this morning, and I saw Thomas Jefferson, as I see this model and plaque there, reminded me that writing like Jefferson was really an important discipline. He had, I think, perhaps one of the finest sensibilities about the language that anyone I've ever read. At any rate, this is accountability. Folks ain't got no right to censor other folks about their habits, 'cause him that give the squirrel the bush tail made the bobtail for the rabbit. And him that built the great big mountains, he hollowed out the little valleys. And him that made the streets and the driveways, he wasn't ashamed to make the alleys. We is all constructed different, and there ain't no two of us the same. And we can't help our likes and dislikes, and if we's bad, we ain't to blame. And if we's good, we needn't show off, 'cause you bet it ain't our doing. We just gets into certain channels that we can't help pursuing. But we all fits into places that no other ones could fill, and we does the things we has to. Big or little, good or ill. Now, John can't take the place of Henry, and Sue and Sally ain't alike. And Bass ain't nothing like a sucker, and Chub ain't nothing like a pike. Now, when you comes to think about it, how it's all planned out and splendid, nothing's done ever happen something that's intended, and I don't care what you does, you has to, and it surely beats the dickens. So, Vani, go put on the kettle, 'cause I got one of Massa's chickens. Oh, the fox went out on the chilly night. He prayed for the moon to give him light. He said, many a mile to go this night before I leave this town. Oh, well, the town, oh, well, the town, oh. Many a mile to go this night before I leave this town. Oh, well, oh, Mother Flipper Papa jumped out of bed. Out of the window she popped her head. She said, John, John, the gray goose is gone. The foxy's on the town. Oh, well, the town, oh, well, the town, oh. John, John, the gray goose is gone, the foxy's on the town. Oh. I've started something. Whoa. Here is a letter that Dunbar writes to one of his mentors in 1865. July 13th, 1895, Dayton, Ohio. My dear Dr. Henry A. Tobey, if it is a rule that tardiness in the acknowledgement of favors argues a lack of appreciation of them, you may set it down that the rule has gone in this case. Yes, I am tied down by menial labor, and any escape from it so far has only been a brief respite that has made the return to the drudgery doubly hard. But I am glad to say that for the past 2 or 3 years, I have been able to keep my mother from the hard toil by which she raised and educated me, but it has been a struggle. Your informant was mistaken as to my aspirations. I did once want to be a lawyer, but that ambition has long since died out before the all-absorbing desire to be a worthy singer of the songs of God and nature, and to be able to interpret my own people through song and story, and to prove to the many that after all, we are human. When Israel was in Egypt's land, let my people go, oppressed so hard they could not stand. Let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh, for to let my people go. An antebellum sermon. Now we is gathered here, my brothers and sisters, in this howling wilderness, for to speak some words of comfort to each other in distress. And we chooses for our subject, and we'll explain it by and by. And the Lord said, Moses, Moses. And the man said, Ma. Now, old Pharaoh down in Egypt, he was the worst man ever born. And they had the Hebrew children down there working in his corn. But the Lord got tired of his fooling, says he, I will let him know. Look here, Moses, go tell Pharaoh for to let them children go. And if he refuses to do it, I will make him rue the how, for I will empty down on Egypt all the vials of my power. Yes, he did. And Pharaoh's army wasn't worth half a dime, for the Lord will help his children, and you can trust him every time. And your enemies may sail you in the back and in the front, but the Lord is all around you for to bear the battle's brunt. And they can forge your chains and shackles from the mountains to the seas, but the Lord will send some Moses for to set his children free. And the land shall hear his thunder like a blast from Gabriel's horn, for the Lord of hosts is mighty when he girds his armor on. But for fear someone mistakes, I will pause right here to say that I'm still preaching ancient, and I ain't talking about today. But I'll tell you, fellow Christians, things will happen mighty strange. Now the Lord done this for Israel, and his ways don't never change. And the love he showed to Israel, it wasn't all on Israel's spend. Now don't you run and tell your masters that I was preaching discontent, because I isn't. I was judging Bible people by their acts. I was handing you the scripture, and I was handing you the facts. Of course, old Pharaoh believed in slavery, but the Lord, he let him see that the people he put breath in, every mother's son was free. And as others think like Pharaoh, and they call the scripture liar, but the Bible says that a servant is a worthy of his hire. And you can't get around nor through that. And you can't get over it. For whatever place you get in, this here Bible too will fit in. So you see, the Lord's intent, ever since the world began, was that his almighty freedom should belong to every man. But I think it would be better if I paused again to say, children, this morning I'm talking about our freedom in a Bible-listic way. But the Moses is a-coming, and he is coming sure and fast. We can hear his feet a trumpet, and we can hear that trumpet blast. I want to warn you people, don't you get too briggity. Don't you get to bragging about these things. You just wait and see. But when the Moses with his power comes and sets us children free, we will praise our gracious master that has given us liberty. And we will shout our hallelujahs on that mighty reckoning day when we is recognized as citizens. Children, now let us pray. Oh, Miss Mary, don't you weep and mourn. I say, Miss Mary, don't you weep and mourn. Pharaoh's army got her drowned. Oh, Miss Mary, don't you weep. One of these mornings, and it won't be long, you'll look for me, children, I'll be gone. Pharaoh's army got her drowned. I say, Miss Mary, don't you weep. I'm going to read you a poem that you should have been aware of around the 14th of February, because you probably had to give somebody a special kind of card. This is called a Negro love song. And for the young in the audience who are not of that persuasion, you can always cross that name out and write in the right one. That's a joke. I think also Dunbar anticipates, for the most part, the kind of music rhythmically that you all listen to, called rap, I think. I know, I don't think, I know. So I'm going to pick on this young man here and have him read, in his voice, read this poem to all the young ladies in the front row. Okay. Negro love song. I seen my lady home last night, bug, honey, jump back. I held her hand and I squeezed it tight. Oh, jump back, honey, jump back. I heard a sigh, a little sigh. I seen a light gleam from her eye and a smile go flitting by. Hey, jump back, honey, jump back. I heard the wind blow through the pines. Jump back, honey, jump back. The mockingbird was a singing fine. Jump back, honey, jump back. And my heart was beating so when I reached my lady's door that I couldn't bear to go. Jump back, honey, jump back. Now I put my arm around her waist. Oh, jump back, honey, jump back. I raised her lips and took a taste. Ooh, jump back, honey, jump back. Love me, honey, love me true. Love me well as I love you. And she answered, of course I do. Oh, jump, honey, jump back. Dunbar and I have this agreement, and I'm going to take more time today. Since I've never been to Minnesota, I'm going to read 2 poems, and then we're going to do the experiment, and then I'll close with 1 or 2 more pieces by Dunbar. I'm going to read you 2 poems that I think are not PC, which is not politically correct, but I wrote them long before there was such a thing as being politically correct. And I think they're probably still decent poems. And I think that watching the people come in to the audience today, I thought desperately I needed to read these 2 again. So the first one is in the voice of a man, and the second one is in the voice of a woman. As you might guess, it took me twice as long to write the second poem as it did the first poem. because I had to get what the lady would say right. So this one is called The Exorcism, and it's for the men. This is what I think they might say playfully. Before I leave this town, there is one thing you ought to know. The first time I said I loved you, I was as honest as the summer's warm. In a manner of speaking, that's crazy man's talk. What other way does a man bleed the full moon without seeming foolish? He acts. If a man follows his heart, the journey is difficult. The fool that watches what he eats is wise. I didn't bring you no flowers, didn't come to say goodbye with no gold. Woman, on your rough road, I grew old. Lost years like few men ever do. My ache all come from loving you. It all come from loving you. I ain't gonna associate with no white gal. I ain't gonna associate with no black gal. Don't you think no red or yellow one will do neither. You women are all the same. Vanity is your game. That's the first thing I'm gonna tell you for a change. Next, I'm gonna look in the mirror and see myself fine. Get me some fine black walks, some slender zippers, and some bright buttons. Then I'm going to exhibit. I'm going to get in all the windows for you to look at. Let you drool, wag your greedy tongue, lick your red lips, roll your eyes. Then let the window dresser pull the drapes, 'cause my price is too high. And then for the ladies, I wrote this poem called The Lady Has Her Say. Listen to me, Woodworth man. Who you think needs a store-bought boy that's got a price tag on his leg? Who you think's anxious to possess a pretty toy? Me, how your thinking's mighty wrong. I want a real strong man with life in his craw, who understands what it takes to give, who feels the pulse to live, who can generate heat all through my house. 'Cause I'm a sweet meat mama that don't do nobody's crying, that refuses to spend time lying, and don't have to waste no time trying, 'cause my strawberries are plump and red and sweet throughout. So go right ahead, take a train, fly a plane, hop in a car, double, triple the distance, make it 4 times as far. Hesitate for my sake, store-bought man. I got you at the 5 and dime. One of the things that you've got to do if you read poems is to have some fun with it. Even when you read novels, you've got to have some fun with the novel. And certainly when you play act, you've got to believe the character that you are attempting to create. Otherwise, it just won't come across the proscenium stage, and it won't act right. One poem more, and then we'll move to the other things. This is a poem that I think Dunbar proves himself again to be extraordinarily prophetic. Remember, he's born in 1972, but by 1906 he's passed away, and the subject of this poem seems to me not to be alive for 23 years after Dunbar's death. The poem is called He Had His Dream. He had his dream, and all through life worked up to it through toil and strife. Afloat forever before his eyes, it colored for him all his skies. The storm cloud dark above his bark, the calm and listless vault of blue took on its hopeful hue. It tinctured every passing beam. He had his dream. He labored hard and failed at last, his sails too weak to bear the blast. The raging tempest tore away and sent his beating bark astray. But what cared he for wind or sea? He said, the tempest will be short, bark will come to port. He saw through every cloud a gleam. He had his dream. I want Jesus to walk with me. Want my Jesus to walk with me all along journey. Want my Jesus to walk with me. Thank you. You think so? Professor Chalbert has asked if I would do a poem called In the Morning. And it's a poem about a mother trying to get up her son so the work can go on. And you'll hear in this poem that they get up at 6 o'clock, which is really not our time at all. So these people were up before the sun came up, and they worked well after the sun went down. As a young child, I remember they would call me and tell me to get up in the morning, and I would put my hand outside the bed and go like that, and somebody would say, I know that that's your hand patting the floor. Now I would like to hear your feet pat the floor. And they would expect that I would immediately get up. So this is a poem called In the Morning. If you have trouble getting out of bed to come here daily, you might identify with this. In the morning. Liars, liars, bless the Lord. Don't you know that the day is abroad? If you don't get up here, you scamp, there is going to be trouble in this here camp. Think I'm going to let you sleep while I make sure board and keep? Now, that's a pretty hard to do. Don't you hear me, liars, you? If I come across this flow, you won't find no time to snow. Daylight all a shining in while you sleep. Why, it's a sin. Ain't the candlelight enough for you to burn up without a snuff? Do you go to the morning too, burning up the daylight too? Liars, don't you hear me call? No, you should turn towards that wall, because I can hear that mattress squeak. This here clock has done struck off 6. Caroline, bring me in that 6. Oh, you is down, sir. Look here, don't you dare to frown. You march yourself and wash your face. And don't you splatter all over this here place, because I got something else to do, so I was cleaning up after you. Look here, boy, I'll let you see you shan't. Roll your eyes at me. Come here and bring me that there strap. Boy, I'll whip you till you drap. You done felt yourself too strong, and you is surely got me wrong. You sit down at that table there, and just you whimper if you dare. Because every morning on this here place seems like I have to lose my grace. Fold your hands and bow your head and wait until the blessing said. Lord, have mercy on our soul. Don't you dare to touch them rolls. Bless the food we's going to eat. You sit still. I see your feet. You just try that trick again. Get us peace and joy. Amen. This now comes the hard part. Hippopotamus, warmth, omnipotent, book, pangolin, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. There's always one in the crowd. Schizophrenia, fust, sorry, fabulous, congeniality, emu, phantasmagorical, belly button, beer. It's a good word, so I'm going to say it because somebody out there wrote it. Urine. Spectacular. Oh. Yes. And the old man said, when we get there, we'll point to you and you stand up and rhythmically say a word. Okay. Next word is explosion, perspicality, discombobulated, gazoo, and wuzzlewoo. Here we go. And 1 and 2 and 3. And 1 and 2 and 3. And 1 and 2 and 3. Down in the deep forest, a long, long time ago, the huge and gray hippopotamus said, I have something to teach you about warmth. Come to my house, because most of the time when people come into the jungle, they see me as something omnipotent. They see my skin, which is rough like the back of books. They say to me, will you put inside your soul pangolin? And I say, no, I will not. As well, I will not use supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, and I go clump, clump, clump through the jungle. I know that the world thinks that the hippopotamus is schizophrenic, but I say, oh no, and I ball up my little leg and turn it into a fust, because I know who I am and what I am in the jungle. Even the lion is afraid of my weight. I tell you, one is ever bored beside me and in my house or in my life, for I am the great and fabulous hippopotamus. I have a kind of congeniality that I can offer even to the emu. I think that that is a phantasmagorical talent, to be able to play around as fat as I am with my belly button. Oh, said the lion, I wish I had a beer at your house. Well, I told him, if you drink too many beers, it will produce urine. Well, said the lion, I think that that is spectacular. But sooner or later, we asked the old cameraman who was down in the jungle to point to the young man who would immediately and rhythmically say, oh, shame on him. Come on, quickly. You have to say it from down here. Then you have to say it from up here. Okay, so he said, so once then the hippopotamus said, I have a great explosion in my body, and I will not tell you from which end it will exude. Oh, said the man, perspicacity, you will seem as if you are discombobulated. Oh, I know, I live somewhere close to the gazoo, and I am teaching all of my children, especially the one who is named Wuzzlewoo, to be like me, because I know what to be a hippopotamus must be like. And I say, carry your weight with dignity, carry your weight with love. And when you meet all the other animals in the village, give them a hug and a handshake and tell them they are a part of your life like you are a part of mine. Now, he said, go and practice being a hippopotamus. Two short poems and a song. This is called After a Visit, and I take real liberties with Dunbar's poem here. It's called After a Visit. I have been over in old Bloomington for a week or two, and say it was as hard as breaking oxen for to tear myself away, always arguing about your friendship and your hospitality, and you ain't no right to talk about it till you've been over there to see. See just how they give you welcome to the best that's in the land, and feel the sort of grip that they give you when they take you by the hand. And hear them say, we're glad to have you, and you better stay a week or two. And the way they treat you makes you feel that every word is true. Feed you till you hear the buttons are crackling on your Sunday vest, and haul you round to see the wonders till you have to cry for rest. And drink and pet and praise you till you get to feel as great as the sheriff of the county or the governor of the state. My wife, she says I must be crazy 'cause I go on so. And Nelsie says aloud, goodness gracious, Daddy, can't you talk about nothing else? Well, plague-gone it, I am just tickled 'cause I am tickled, and being tickled ain't no sin. I have been over in Minnesota and I want to go again. Since the light's not on, I can't let you ask me any questions about Dunbar, I suppose. Anybody? I can see a hand. A serious question? No serious questions? You just all like to be on television. Zoom in on somebody and then... Yes, please. Yeah, the letter I read you where he says he wanted to be a lawyer. The question is, was he disrespected? I think that it was just a matter that he was born in the late 1800s, and people didn't much care for black people like they don't today. That's not nice. Half of that is true, and the other half isn't. And you can filter out the truth. But so what he does is he graduates from high school, he tries to become a law clerk, and the doors were shut to him. So he got a job as an elevator operator, enough to tell people that he wrote, and he started taking subscriptions for writing. And that led to his first book. So once he had enough money, he could publish the first book. The book sold out. He did it again for the second book, and that book landed on the desk of William Dean Howells. And William Dean Howells was friend with Mark Twain. And Howells said that this was the first African-American born in this country of slave parentage that exhibited literary talent, and that made Dunbar famous. And from that point on, he went around the country reading from venues like this, his poems. And finally, he went to England and read for the aristocrats and royalty of the time. His agent took him there and then dropped him reason. And so the ambassador from the United States picked him up and helped him out and saw that he got the proper introductions and the proper readings. It's been hard trying to keep Dunbar alive, partly because the dialect did not sit well with the black middle class. They didn't much care for that. And the reason is, you probably think the people who talk in dialect are not very smart and not very intelligent. So, and the black middle class wanted people to know that they could use standard English, and that they were worthy to be members of the American society. So that got Dunbar in a particular kind of situation that he couldn't get out of. But the irony of that is, if you think about it, we think that Huck Finn is one of the great American novels. Look at the language and it's Southern white, Southern black, it's standard English, spoken by the aunt and Miss, what's her name? But then there's pretend English with the Duke and the King. And Twain gets away with that because it's remarkable writing, first of all. But we never ever say that the dialect in that book is second rate, but we apply it to Dunbar. So you know, the standards aren't quite the same. So I'm at some pains to try and make Dunbar accessible. That's why I'm telling these really strong husky men when they have to find a Valentine's, and they do, and we all know that they should find the Negro love song, or How Do I Love Thee, Let Me Count the Ways, said Mrs. Browning. There are some really remarkable pieces of literature out there, and you should familiarize yourself with them because it's part and parcel of your culture. Somebody else? That's a long answer. You'll probably want to take your crutch and beat me to death. Did I ask him all of that? Did I want to know all that? No. Stop it. The guy on the left is pretty bad, and the guy on the right is nice and quiet. He doesn't say very much. And this one is always saying awful things. You know, that's why when Urin was in that pack, he said, "Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy." Yes, ma'am. Caught you at the five and dime?
Yeah, what if we like that? Or where can we find your poem? I believe that you wrote that one yourself.
Yes, I did. I wrote the Exorcism, and I wrote it rather seriously. You know, it was kind of ponderous and heavy. I wanted to really get back at this lady for what I thought injustice she had done. And I read it, and the audience was in... they were hysterical. They were just laughing all over the place. And luckily for me, I learned very early on that the audience can tell you something about a poem that you hadn't imagined. And they told me that it was funny. So and I thought it was a kind of put down. So then I wrote this lady's voice, and I read that, and the place just went wild. And I suspected the feminists were there. I have now 6 books. The first 4 came almost within 2 years of each other, and then for about 19 years I worked on a book of poetry that won a prize, and it's about 116 pages long. It took me 25 years to do it, but not 25 years every day, off and on for a fairly long time. And then I entered it into a contest, and it won. One of my ex-colleagues who teaches at Augsburg told me that I am on Amazon.com, and you can find the last 2 books there. So if you don't want to go to the bookstore and ask Dunbar's Sons and Dominions or The Log of the Vigilante, you can find those on the Amazon.com or the internet. Somebody plugged in my name yesterday and came out with 3 or 4 essays that I just completely forgotten about. They were written about me, but I didn't write them. So all that stuff is there on those machines. I try not to pay attention to that because I think that genuinely some of it is hype, And I just want to write and publish as much as I can in my lifetime, and let the rest take care of itself. Does that answer? First four, I think now are out of print. I wrote one that was called New York, the 9 Million and Other Poems. The title was too long. Nobody could ever get it right. So then I wrote another one, and that one was risque at best. And my mother said, you can't put that on a title. And so I went and called the publisher and said, we've got to find another title. We can't use this. Well, I couldn't find another title that was as good. And so I let them print it up. And she just said, my son has a new book of poetry out. And so I thought that was okay. For those people who are squeamish, it's called the SS poem. Or it's the S storm poem. And the S is 4 letters, I think. So you can fill in the blank. I know you know that word. I can tell you know that. But all those books are out of print, and these are the only 2 that are still in print. That's right. I think you have it. I'm going to read you. Let me read you, maybe one more poem. This is from the Log of the Vigilante. It was a genuine slave ship. That is to say, it was real. And what I do every day, I get up and I read the obituaries. And I thank God that I'm not there, because I wouldn't be reading the obituaries then. But I also look for those unusual nicknames. Like, I found one the other day that was called Tiger Jim. And I couldn't figure out how this man was called, why he was called Tiger Jim, because there was no James in his name at all. So this is called Obituary, and it is about the death of Jim Crow. James Americanus Crow died in his hometown in Landscape County in Newark, Mississippi, USA. He was reputed to be as old as the country. Everyone who knew him called him Jim. Mr. Crow had a long and devastating career as a black-faced impersonator. He could sing, he could dance. Race, he said, is a serious thing. It is said his lifelong sideman, Mr. Straight-Faced Bones, taught him the slew-footed wingy thing. There is nothing in the records to substantiate this fact, nor is there anything to define his particular gifts. Critics and enemies alike allege his spirit taught his heart to hate, and blood turned into a darker anger. Although his body departs, his spirit survives. His remains are on view at the earthly rest. The Reverend E.C.A.D.F.G. Africanus, pastor of the Greater Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Baptist Sanctified Presbyterian Catholic Tabernacle, will deliver the eulogy. Regretfully, interment will be private as requested by the family. That's supposed to be funny, and you didn't laugh. I don't know. One of the things after slavery was that the African Americans, or the slaves, added lots of initials to their name because that was a sign of real importance. And one of the interesting things in these was that all of those same kinds of people decided to X out the names. So we get Martin XX, and that kind of thing. You have to be careful because some people, black people, started telling the joke about the little black kid who came into school the other day having looked in the newspaper and seen this title, Malcolm X, and he said, how did I miss the other 9 segments of that movie, Malcolm? Because there's that X there. For the lady way in the back who asked me about the two poems, if you come up, I'll give you this one. So. Oh, she's coming right now. Yes. Oh, you okay? Come on down.
I never win anything.
There
Thank
you are. Thank you. Okay, my pleasure. Anything else? Otherwise, I think we might be done.
Can you do one more song?
I can do one more song. No, not for you. Okay. And I think what I will do is, I don't have a beer song. I'm going to do an old American folk song that was set by what we now think of as the perhaps the father of American music, certainly the most important 20th century American composer, Aaron Copland. Okay, and I suspect that somewhere along the way, your beautiful choir who's going into competition tomorrow will sing this song one of those days. It's called I Bought Me a Cat. I bought me a cat, my cat pleased me. I fed my cat under yonder tree. My cat said, fiddle-I-fee. I bought me a duck, my duck pleased me. I fed my duck under yonder tree. My duck said, quack, quack. My cat said, fiddle-I-fee. So I bought me a hen, my hen pleased me. I fed my hen under yonder tree. My hen said, shimmy shack, duck said, quack, quack. My cat said, fiddle-I-fee. So I bought me a pig, my pig pleased me. I fed my pig under yonder tree. My pig said, griffy, griffy. My hen said, shimmy shack. My duck said, quack, quack. My cat said, fiddle-I-fee. So I bought me a cow, my cow pleased me. I fed my cow under yonder. My cow said, moo, moo. My pig said, griffy, griffy. Hen said, shimmy shack. My duck said, quack, quack. My cat said, fiddle-I-fee. So I bought me a horse, my horse pleased me. I fed my horse under yonder tree. My horse said, neigh, neigh. My cow said, moo, moo. My pig said, griffy, griffy. Hen said, shimmy shack. Duck said, quack, quack. My cat said, fiddle-I-fee. So I bought me a wife, my wife pleased me, and I fed my wife under yonder tree. My wife said, honey, honey. My horse said, neigh, neigh. My cow said, moo, moo. My pig said, griffy, griffy. Hen said, shimmy shack. Duck said, quack, quack. My cat said, fiddle-I-fee. Thank you very much.